Hi guys, welcome to another episode of The Power of Storytelling. Today we're going to be talking with Jose Orvera. He's going to talk about his journey coming from Cuba to the United States at 19. He's going to give us some sales advice. He's going to talk about how fitness impacted his life overall. All right, here we are with Jose. Would you like to introduce yourself? Get this thing started?
Sure. My name is Jose Orvera. I'm from Cuba. Well, originally from Cuba. I came 12 years ago. I'm 31, so I came when I was 19. Big dreams, trying to coming to America to make those dreams come true. And it was, I was lucky enough to start a career in sales. Eventually, someone saw some leadership qualities in me, and I was elevated into like directorship roles, and that's what I've been doing for the past 10 years.
Was there anything about sales specifically that kind of attracted you to it?
I've always been someone who doesn't like getting paid, but I like earning money.
Yeah.
So, I really like to have my compensation and the amount of money that goes into my bank account to be directly linked to the amount of effort that goes in. So when I started looking, I came from a country that is, the culture is very different in Cuba, right? So when you come into the U.S., there's several career paths that you can choose from, and the only one that always have like untapped potential always is sales. And I think that my personality really like leaned into a sales job. I like to think I'm easy to talk to. So that's how it all started, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So you said you came to the United States first when you were 19, was it?
Yeah, I was 19. I was 19 years old.
Yeah. Was there any kind of like big shock factors, like anything that took a little while to get used to when you first came here?
Well, growing up in Cuba is it's a different atmosphere. I'm shocked that a lot of the times I have to explain a lot of these things. I don't mean in a negative way, but it's a communist country. So
Yeah.
when you come to the US, yes, it's a big shock to see a
Yeah.
city that like electricity, food, and then those things just make a huge difference. Yeah. So it was crazy to come to a country that isn't your own and try to succeed.
Yeah. And then also earlier you said something about how you became like in supervisor roles, so like you'd be leading teams, right?
Yes, that's what I've
Uh,
been doing.
is there anything in particular that you enjoy about that, like leading teams?
Yeah, I think that you got to go back to my background in sales. So I don't know if you have ever done sales, but if anyone watches this that does sales, you know that whenever you close a deal, you get like a little bit of like a high, like a salesman high. We call it like, yeah, I feel pretty good. I just closed a deal. Your confidence goes up a little bit. And when you've closed multiple deals and over again, as you start becoming better, a lot of that goes away.
Okay.
So I remember the day clearly, like I was sitting down, like having lunch, and one of my coworkers in my sales team was pitching. And when I heard him pitching, their pitch was almost word for word mine. And that gave me that high again because he did close the deal. So at that point, I realized that something that I really wanted to do in my career was to help other salespeople like perform to their best. And from that point on, I never looked back. That's when I decided that I wanted to be a sales leader.
Is there any advice you'd have for people that are looking to get in sales, but like maybe people that are watching that are interested in sales but aren't sure about it?
Yeah, I would say don't be scared. And if I had to give one piece of advice is don't listen to anyone that tells you that sales is easy. Sales is not easy, man. It's hard as hell. It's super hard uh, because it would test a lot of things on you. It would test your character daily. It would test you the ability that you have to deal with rejection daily. It would make you question yourself a lot of times. But don't get discouraged by that because even though they're not easy, I like to think that with the proper mentoring, sales can be very simple. So if you're someone who you think that you want to have an uncapped earning potential, you find it easy to talk to others, and you have to be a problem solver and a critical thinker in order to be successful at the highest level of sales, then by all means, if you consider that you have those three things, plus the ability to constantly be adapting and learning, you're going to be great.
Would you say networking plays a big role within sales? Kind of like finding people, like kind of like that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It really depends, right? Look, so sales is such a broad concept. So I think that it does depend on the industry. For example, if you're selling hair products, your network doesn't really matter that much. But if you're selling real estate, your network is probably the one thing that matters. So networking is extremely important. Most importantly, because through networking, as you start your career in sales, you might run into one or two good mentors that you can learn from.
Okay, so kind of like with networking and sales, I feel like one important thing would be creating connections, right? Would you have any tips for like how to build genuine connections with other people?
I have one, only the one. Um, don't be fake.
Don't be fake.
So a lot of people, the higher that you go into the professional echelon, like the higher that you go, the more you realize that anybody's weird, and the more that weird it gets normalized, right?
Yeah.
So start working in an office, you're like the first person in the building. You gotta be like this, outstanding, by the book, abiding, and following every single little rule. Like you gotta be like super like like uh, like structured,
Yeah.
and your thought and your critical ability of being yourself gets a little bit lost.
Yeah.
But that can happen. So don't be fake. And what I mean by that is just be genuine. Who you are is extremely important. And in the teams that I lead, this is the key, because I reward personality. I tell my salespeople all the time, you can have someone that calls in today to get a free consultation. They might talk to you, to Logan, and you're a perfectly fine salesperson, and you have the same product knowledge that I have, but you were not able to close the deal. And then if I talk to them, I do. The only difference there was our personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like
So
I feel like a lot of times in school nowadays, like I feel like they teach people to be more artificial than actually using their personality.
yeah, 100%. Um, Something that I tell a lot when I'm teaching people is your story matters. Like we live in a world. This is kind of sad, no, but we live in a world where every single interaction that we have with another human that is just calling you is trying to sell you something. Like that's kind of the way that it is. So if that's implicit in the conversation, why don't I try to connect with the human before I start looking at them as just another, client?
Yeah.
So they're humans first, maybe clients after. And the more you treat them as humans, the better chances that you're going to have a very, very ongoing relationship with them as a client.
Yeah. So I'm gonna take it back a little bit. So it looked like for a little bit you worked at Powerhouse Gym and you were a sales director, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you take us a little bit about that experience there? Like maybe anything you learned from it, what you liked, things like that?
Well, fitness changed my life. It allowed me to give a platform where um, discipline and consistency became part. Like, for me, it became the structure and the spine, right, of a career and anything that I've always wanted to achieve. So a lot of that, what I mean by that is, a goal for as large as it is, it's just very small steps repeated over and over and over and over. And that's how we started with fitness. Going into Powerhouse Gym, though, I was at a point in my life where I was like head over heels over fitness. So at that point, it makes sense for me to be involved in the fitness industry, because the passion was there. And that's the other key part of sales, right? Like you need to believe that the product that you sell works. If you don't, you're not gonna succeed. And I was there for a while. Then eventually the fitness industry and I got pretty hurt. But that wasn't the part of it. Is just I needed to move away from the fitness industry for a while. And I like to keep my fitness, but now it's like a to myself thing. And that's the way that went. But we were able to develop a killer sales team there.
Yeah. Fitness is a really big part of my life as well. So I know what you mean. I feel like it can just help like install those small principles in you and just help build that dedication, help you need consistency. Just need consistency. Um, so within motivating teams, how would you say you motivate other people to reach
Uh,
places?
that's a good question. That's actually a question that's changed over time.
Mhm.
But if I had to give you like a definitive answer, I've thought about this a lot. I think that there are two ways of leading and multiple ways of motivating people. I think that there's only two types of leader. None of them is right or wrong. And different teams need to be motivated different ways. So I think that you can be a leader from the front. You can be a producer. You can be the best salesperson of your sales team. Just to give you one example, you can be the salesperson of your sales team and be the top producer of your team and teach those concepts down so everyone can follow you closer. That's the one way. The other way is to lead from the back, just to make sure that no one is left behind. So one is dragging their team with them, the other one is pushing them forward. I prefer to lead from the back. Now, that's tricky because in order for you to lead from the back, that means that your production it's a little lower. And in sales, there's ego. It happens. There's competition. There's trash talking. It happens. Actually, if there's a team that is in sales that is not trash talking, it's not healthy in my opinion. So when that's the case, the first thing that you need to do is establish moral authority. You need to be that much better or that much more knowledgeable, whether it's the product, whether it's the sales process, whether it's your numbers, for a consistent amount of time before your team trusts you to teach them. Because when that happens, they will do whatever you want, whatever you say, not because you want to, but because they want to, because they know that you want what's best for them.
Kind of went into it a little bit. I'm just kind of curious. How does like that competitiveness like play a role within sales or just like within the roles you've been in?
I think that competitiveness, it's fun, man. Like, it's as long as you can back it up. So in sales, it's a gigantic, I don't want to say toxic, but like intense mental game where most of your money is tied to your ability to close a deal. Or if you want, how I like to call it, open a relationship. I like to, instead of closing the deal, call it open a relationship, because hopefully we can sell to that client over and over again and you don't have to work that hard, right? But it's tied up to that. So I think that competitiveness needs to be implemented in a good way, culture-wise. And what I mean by that in terms of competitiveness is like, if you have goals or sales goals or bonuses that are going to be paid across your organization, you should probably make it so the top producer gets more than the second one. You should probably make it so the third one gets a little bit than the third one, and then the fourth one almost gets nothing. Like a thank you for playing, right? So when you tie those things in, you create an environment where your fourth producer 2 months ago, before the competitive aspect was included, is producing what your second producer was doing 4 months ago, because now everybody wants to go harder. Now everybody was like, want to move one spot over. Remember, salespeople are only motivated by few different things. It's either money, recognition, or madness. That's it. So when you're able to find what drives people, you can just constantly poke at it.
Would you have any advice for people that like, so within competitiveness as well? I feel like that brings on pressure. Would you have any advice for people that can't really like struggle handling pressure to like overcome that?
Pressure is necessary. I don't really have any advice other than get comfortable with it, because not only in sales, in any career that you choose to go to, there's going to be pressure at some point. There's always deadlines. Your boss is a boss. Their boss is a boss. I think that gamifying things can be fun. So if you can make it so it feels like a game. Do you watch Squid Game?
Yeah, I have actually.
They're killing each other. It feels like a game.
Yeah.
So I don't mean it in that way, but what I mean is like, if you know that you have a huge deadline to come, and you start to feel overwhelmed by the pressure, something that I used to do as a salesperson way back when is like, okay, I need to hit this amount of deals. How do I break that down? So instead of looking at like an overwhelming amount of dollars, you just break it down to, I have 20 days to get there. This is this amount of dollars. And I just have to do that every day. So tackle it in smaller chunks makes it easier.
Yeah, that makes sense. So growing up or when you first came to the United States, did you have any role models that helped like guide you in the right direction?
Um, Not really. I mean, I was pretty, I'm coming from a country with barely having any access to the internet, right?
Yeah.
But early in my career, I started working as a school principal. I got vice principal in a private language school that was they did a student exchange, so they sold English programs. And the one person that I'm extremely grateful, will always be grateful for my entire career. Her name is Ana Rocha. Shout out. She was the principal, and she hired me even though I didn't have the qualifications at that time, right? Like I didn't have the qualifications. I was a 19-year-old kid, like 20 at the time, maybe. So she hired me, and she kind of showed me the ropes. Eventually, for some odd reason, I guess like I pick up languages easy. I started learning. I learned Portuguese, and most of our business was in Portuguese. So she got me involved in the sales process a lot, which I didn't have to. I was mostly doing bookkeeping for them because I was good at math, and that's like how I started like having conversations about like certain large ticket items over email. That's how I built my professional etiquette, and it was all thanks to her that I think that I'm here today.
Yeah, that's pretty
That,
cool.
huh?
I was gonna say that's pretty cool though. So you say you started just picking up Portuguese. That was
Yeah,
pretty
it's
quick.
similar. I speak Spanish, so I think that one day she just walked into the office, and we had one of our agents visiting, and she was running late or something because she lived in Miami at that time. And the agent arrived early, and the agent didn't speak English, so I was able to like have like a kind of like weird conversation in Portuguese, and it was working.
Yeah.
And eventually, a couple agents visits later, she just got me into the room, and she goes like, "Here, just speak Portuguese. You already do." And I'm like, "I do." I'm like, "Yeah." I was looking over your emails in Portuguese, and they're perfect, so just do it.
Wow. That's pretty awesome. That's an awesome story. So
Yeah.
it just come. So I look. So you can just. Is it only three languages you can speak then? English, a little bit of Portuguese, and Spanish.
Yes, that's what I got.
That's an awesome story. So one more question I have is, how would you define success?
That's a great question. Success is when I think there's a couple things. One of them is when every day that you wake up, you don't dread what you're about to do. Whether that's not a good or a bad thing, right? I've had days where I've woke up and I know that I have to go to work and terminate 5 people. That's not a good feeling ever, right? Like, you're affecting people's lives. But if you almost know that you're doing good to your organization, to yourself, your family, um, you don't feel bad about it, And what I mean by that is if it's in the overall well-being of your organization, then or is helping you or your organization to become successful, then it's not a dreadful thing. So success is waking up and not dreading what you have to do, as hard as it is. That's what I think success. It's one, and then number two is to attain whatever your goal was or whatever you said your goal was. It's important that it's the one that you said, and it's important that you keep changing the goal, because otherwise you're just gonna get stagnant.
Oh, so with goals, did you have any like initial like what were some of your goals that you placed on yourself throughout your journey, for example?
I wanted to have a house. I went from studio to apartment to house. I was able to. My mom, when I came when I was 19, a big part of the journey was that I was leaving her behind, and I was going to try to build a life where she could come. And if she didn't want to work, she didn't have to.
Yeah,
And I was able to do that 4 years ago.
that's awesome.
Now, yeah, that was like the biggest like long-term goal, right? Like to be able to make that full transition. Now I'm trying to become a US citizen, so that's like, it's not really professionally, but like it's another goal that I have. So um I think that I just started some entrepreneurial venues myself, so that's a lot of my next goals is to create a couple of businesses that apply what I've learned over years, of what best practices are in order to create better life for me and my family.
Would you want to talk about any of those entrepreneurial ventures you're taking?
Sure. I'm in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, greater area. So a lot of it is I have these great friends. So I guess that the network does come in place. I'm gonna give them a shout out too. There's two of them. One his name is Juan Pablo Park. So when I get this, I'll tag them on Instagram, by the way. Juan Pablo Park, and then I have Danilo Dominguez, who's a realtor. He's a broker actually, and we've been friends for a long time. but we just didn't know that we wanted to work together this badly for a long time. Uh, so I started doing some project management for Airbnbs to
Okay.
have like extra on the side. It's easy to a level. You just communicate with guests, and as long as you maintain proper etiquette and you know how to sell here and there, you can get pretty booked. Especially if you know a couple marketing tricks here and there. And then when they saw that I was doing that, and given that they know that I have an extensive background of like people skills, then immediately we started seeing how could we collaborate with one another. Juan Pablo does most of the financing. Danilo and his group, DDC group, shout out to them as well. They find us most of the properties, and then I just deploy the teams, whether it's cleaning, marketing, and then that's what we're doing. We're growing, and it's been really fun.
Is there anything special that you like about marketing?
Yes, I love marketing, especially after it's such a powerful tool. You saw that it brought a smile to my face. I just read this book. It's called Positioning: A Battle for Your Mind. And if you have not read that book, you should. It's just basically, it gives you so once you understand how marketing works, you can make it so you can position yourself where the competition doesn't matter. So I think that used correctly, it's probably the strongest tool to make any business profitable today.
Okay. Would you have any advice for people that are looking into the marketing field at all?
Read Positioning by Al Reed.
Yeah. I'll leave a link below in the video.
Yeah, it's called Positioning by Al Rees, A Battle for Your Mind. And there's a great quote from that book that I love. And the quote goes, "Where does the 800-pound gorilla sleeps?" Wherever he wants, man. He's 800 pounds. Yeah. So don't compete with the 800-pound gorilla. Like don't try to beat him at what he's good. So it's a great book, and it puts everything into perspective. And I think that it gives much smaller businesses or marketers the ability to know what they should and what is probably not a good idea.
Do you think any of like your background in sales kind of helps you be a better marketer? Like, do you think like there's overlap?
Because they're very different things. They're different disciplines, but they go hand in hand. So if you are a sales team and everyone is a killer, when you're a good salesperson, I call you a killer. So when you're like a killer, you're not gonna do anything if you don't have a prospect.
Yeah.
And you can have the best marketing team who brings in the best leads, but if your team can close them, you have a customer service team. Okay. So they go hand in hand. So once you know sales, I think that you have great input into what you want your marketing to say, because you know what to expect on the back end. Yeah. And then if you flip that, marketing needs to understand what the sales process is like, so they can set the expectations on the front end to the clients.
Yeah, I get okay. I never thought of it like that. That actually makes sense.
It makes kind of sense, right?
Yeah. Let's see if there's anything else here. Is there anything that you'd like to promote throughout today, like throughout the episode?
I won't know, but just join a book club, and that's the most important thing. Try to read a lot, make notes. Don't take everything. You don't have to. Just take what you like. Just ditch the rest, but make sure that you keep at least one thing. Actually, you know what? The only thing that I would want to promote is DDC Group. We're doing a lot of great things. So if somebody is looking to invest in a property, or they're trying to buy the dream house, or they're trying to find a property to rent, whatever that is real estate related in South Florida, then it's gonna be DDC Group. I can send you the link so you can put it whatever. I don't know how to do that, but I've always wanted to. They can reach out to me. I can do some sales coaching, mostly online. But I don't know what kind of time I'm going to have to do that with everything that it's unraveling so fast.
All right, well, we'd like to say thank you for being on the podcast today. I learned a lot. I hope the viewers learned a lot, and it was very beneficial for everyone.
Yeah, man, this was awesome. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I look forward to, maybe having a part two, if that's a thing. I don't know.
We always
Logan, thank you so much for the invitation. And that's it.
Yeah, that'll be it.
Yes, sir.
And that'll be it for today's episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. I think you'll like one of these episodes that are popping up right about here. And until next time.